back into the mid-Norfolk garden for another little guided tour to see what's doing at the moment. Bluebells starting. This is our little area just under this oak tree where we have the majority of our bluebells that we've cultivated in the garden. It's a bit of a monoculture most years, but this year we've got a few intruders just working their way in, and we have increased the daffodil plantings, particularly at the back. We've put some of these scented narcissa. I'm not sure whether it's Winston Churchill or Cheerfulness. It's a really highly scented one, very similar in flower. Don't think there's an awful lot between the two varieties, to be honest. Bit of forget-me-not also wheedling its way into here, and we've got quite a few pink bells starting to come in with some campion and just the last remnants of the daffodils, which have lasted so incredibly well this year. The season's been very kind to them. Haven't had any torrential winds or rain to really dash them. This little almost native variety is one of the last ones to flower in this planting. Very fine, thin little petals, powdery yellow, which is absolutely beautiful. The larger varieties still just about holding their own as we deadhead them through towards what will be the end of this week, beginning of May. Apple blossoms starting, and the rhododendrons on the back bank, the early pink ones coming to the end, and the deep crimson reds just starting. Overall, this little orchard area has been an absolute joy this spring, with everything from the crocus onwards doing really absolutely fantastically. Sometimes in a garden, a primrose just throws off a new genetic version, and look at this deep crimson, purpley with orange centres, and wow, the size of these flowers, if I just put my hand in, maybe give you some scale on that compared to the normal little primrose flowers. They're not masses of them, but what a healthy and spectacular little throw-off that's just seeded itself and appeared in the front of this border. We've got the planting usually by this time. We've got only the later daffodils still flowering. The early tete-a-tetes, you can see just the leaf still there, and we should just have this run of purpley pink hyacinths flowering at this time. But this year's been unusual, mild, early for some things, later for others. So an unusual season to say the least in what's flowering still in this gore. Doing very well though. This run of rhododendrons we've really struggled with over the last 5 or 6 years. Not an ideal planting location for them, a dry bank in what for most of the late and summer, late spring and early summer is a really sunny border and dry. So it's been a bit of a task watering these and keeping them going, and they've not really thrived. We've kept them going, ticking over, and they're rewarding us now. Pink ones flower a couple of weeks earlier than the reds that are now just breaking bud and should be in full flower over the next week to week and a half. This is my quince tree, a fruiting quince as opposed to an ornamental quince. Beautiful, furry, heavy green leaf, and then these lovely pink flowers that open and fade to white, and plenty of them. If I just draw back from this tree, it forms a really nice form. The leaves just falling away from the branches, drooping almost. Looks almost wilted at some stages, but that's the soft form that it holds at this time of year, and the blossom held above the leaf, so you see it. Very nice ornamental tree with some lovely light green colouring at this time of year. You can see it's quite early compared to the little oak next to it. No bud break on that at all, although some of them we've shown you are already in full leaf and flowering, and the huge, great big, what is that tree? I want to call it a maple, but it's actually a sycamore. Even now, just still in its winter plumage, should I say. No bud break on it at all, but that'll break over the next week or so with this warmish weather that we're getting now. Still got the cold easterlies though, which is holding everything back, and it is in part why we've had such an extended season and everything's lasting so well. It's cold but sunny, not too windy. We are in a bit of a drought, to be honest, at this stage. Haven't had rain here in Norfolk now for about 2.5, 3 weeks, everything's nice and dry, but some things are just starting to show a little bit of stress from that. Here she comes, fine Marana on the loose. Help me deadhead some of these daffodils by charging her way through them. Got a lovely sprinkling here of mixed bluebells, which have then just seeded themselves out. Here we go, fine Marana on the move. I'm going to have to get up, I wasn't going to be mugged. It's a very nice little planting here. We've got some fritillarias, whites, and the classic purple one in here that we put in. Let me show you those in a little bit more detail. Just about coming, some of them to the end. Now, these do very well here. Buy them as pot plants really, in pots in the spring flower markets. We've popped them in here. We didn't have them previously, and they've been in here probably 4 or 5 years now. No real sign of them seeding out, which we'd have really liked, and spreading, but they are at least holding their own and coming back every year. And the purple one's a little bit more vigorous, taller growth on it. And from above, these are absolutely beautiful things, like little lanterns. Get the sunlight coming through those and they really glow. Plenty of flower on this one. Oh, one just to the side there, so perhaps these are going to reward us by seeding out and gradually spreading and colonising this area. Let's hope so. This full big double cherry is an ornamental variety. It doesn't actually fruit, but it's grown very well here. It's in a good bit of soil, and it's one of the trees in this area that has grown perhaps the healthiest of all. Some things we struggle with in this area. The soil quality is not particularly good. Got our suspicions we may be planting on an old tennis court site with hardcore and gravel beneath them. But this one's got its feet down, and I think it's going to reward us with a really fantastic show. But if you want to see a real show-stopping cherry, just come with me round into the dell. Just look at this one poking its arms over the back wall of the vegetable garden. Been in here about 6-7 years now, put on a massive amount of growth, and every year rewards us with this full, absolute double rosettes of flowers. Start out this dark pink, fading to a pastely creamy white pink. Absolutely spectacular tree. Not to everyone's taste. I know some people think these Japanese flowering cherries are a bit overblown. Sorry about the builders in the background finishing up for the day, but I love it, and it just gives us this blast of colour with the lime green foliage coming out behind it of the oaks. The contrast is spectacular. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tour. Plenty to see at this time of year in the garden. Join me again next week when we'll take you another tour and show you what's coming on.